tasty beverage. Okay. Well, howdy folks. I'm just going to start off by saying that today is going to be maybe kind of a lengthy video. Just come on and talk. Maybe explain why I haven't been on YouTube in quite some time. Well, first of all, that puzzle took the living daylights out of me to complete with the whole Disney puzzle with the princess one. But also I was planning to do some movie reviews and some other stuff, but then this past week happened. I was admitted to the hospital where I had appendicitis. So the had to have the nice little procedure to remove my appendix. Trust me, that was something that was not entirely planned. It just hit me right now, and of course I was busy with my work schedule and everything was going good until Wednesday 2 weeks ago. November the 20th. No, not November, but May. I don't know why I'm saying November, but May the 22nd of 2024. I worked all day, and at first in the morning was feeling great. Well, right around 9 o'clock happened, and my stomach started to hurt. And thinking that it's maybe just a little bit of gas, just thing that'll just pass on, hopefully. And then lunchtime came. It's still hurting, but I still ate my lunch. And as the day wears on, it's getting worse and worse and worse. I almost threw up at work, but I didn't. Instead, I worked until we were properly dismissed. I'm hurrying home. I'm in pain. And the first thing I do is, as soon as I walk into my house, I'll walk right into the restroom and upchuck. And I thought, this isn't right. So I go lay down for a little bit. And about 15 minutes later, I'm back in the bathroom vomiting again. I place a phone call to my parents who live nearby. I said, I need help. And I need to go to the emergency room. And my mother's an old school nurse. She's like, no, let's just go see if the clinic's open. And I said, no, go to the ER. And so we did. Went to the ER. First thing the ER does, they get me right in. And they do a CT scan on me and said, we got some bad news for you. You have appendicitis. It's your appendix. It's got to come out. And at first I'm thinking, because they have the IV in me, and so I'm on morphine to help with the pain. And they are trying, the ER is saying, get him into surgery right now, because we've caught it in time. Well, things didn't exactly go according to plan, and I ended up staying overnight. No surgery until the next day. long story short, my appendix did rupture, and that caused me to have to stay another night. They're filling me full of antibiotics and other pain medication. So I went basically a little over 24 hours with nothing on my stomach, not even water. The only fluids that they were getting was from the IV. And so that's not something I want to relive, but thankfully I won't have to again. It's out. I'm getting better day by day. Matter of fact, I will be returning to work next Monday. But now I have to deal with the politics of the FMLA, if you know anything about that. So I did submit the paperwork, but it takes a while for them to process it and all this and that, and so it's just a big political mess. And so yeah. So that's where I've been for the past few days, just recuperating. I've been home for about, I've been home since this past Wednesday. So I stayed with my parents for a few days, just so that they could monitor me and make sure things were going okay. And matter of fact, I did start running a fever, so which they kind of expected would happen. And something I heard crash, probably a pan in the kitchen sink or something. But anyhow, yeah, that's appendicitis is not something I wish on anybody. I was a little scared because I know I've seen too many movies and medical shows and things like that. So there was all these little doubts that were running through your head. And my pastor, he contacted me, even the chapel from the hospital, and the surgeon said, "You're going to be fine." So you're going to be fine. Don't worry. But yeah, it's that is a situation where it can kill you if they don't catch it in time. But thankfully they did catch mine. It did rupture, however, but we're thinking that's something else. I'm not going to go into the details on that, but yeah, but they've given me plenty of antibiotics, pain medication, and so far I've just been trying to monitor myself. If I feel like I'm getting a little feverish, I've just been taking some Tylenol. Of course, that's happened a couple times, but other than that, I'm getting back to where I was. As a matter of fact, you know, there were several people. I went to church for the first time last Sunday since my operation, so it was it's not something I wanted to do, but I think everybody else would rather me be well, get healthy, and not trying to push myself, even though my pastor has preached while having pneumonia. But that's where me and him are we kind of get a little stubborn, but oh well. So in the meantime, while I'm recuperating, I've just been kind of taking it easy. Listening to some music, watching some YouTube, watching some movies. Matter of fact, when I was in the hospital, I was privileged. I thought I was privileged because the hospital had cable TV. They had decent cable TV, I thought. So they had Turner Classic Movies, and so I turned on Turner Classic Movies to watch it. You know, as much as I'm paying for my cable, I don't have that channel, and I kind of want it. The only alternative I'm thinking is to maybe subscribing to Max, which TCM is incorporated, but yeah, so I was kind of watching some, some classic movies. There was one I was watching with Red Skelton. And I forget the title of it, but it had Red Skelton and Ricardo Montalban. I'll try to put the title of it underneath in like a little caption here, but that was the movie the song "Baby It's Cold Outside" came from. So, you know that Christmas song, "Baby It's Cold Outside," you know, the one that got banned several years ago for saying they had date rape and all that stuff. Yeah, that was the movie that they played to show where that song came from. There was another film, but anyhow, I ended up watching. They had a guest programmer in George Miller. And George Miller programmed for that evening. Then this was after I got out of surgery. I immediately turned back on Turner Classic Movies, and George Miller was hosting. He had programmed "How Green Was My Valley," directed by John Ford, starring a young Roddy McDowall. I'm thinking he's like 11 or 12 years old in that movie. He's really young. Also Maureen O'Hara. And then right after that was The Seven Samurai, but it was getting late and I was kind of falling asleep in the middle of Seven Samurai, so I woke up and just to turn off the TV and just go to sleep, and of course I had a nurse come in periodically and take my blood sugar, take my blood pressure, just checking my vitals, even while I was asleep. She'd wake me up just to not, okay, well, here's my finger, take my blood sugar, because I'm also diabetic. So that was another thing they had to monitor. And, but everything looks good there. But when I got home, I thought, there's some movies I've wanted to check out that I've had on disc or had not seen at all and ended up ordering through Amazon. But one I've set aside here because I have yet to even watch it, and it's a film from 1979. It is Hair. I've heard a lot of things about this. Supposedly it was a favorite film of that year. Yeah, of course, old hippie movie, but I have yet to watch it. But the first one, as soon as I got home, I put in, because I actually had it and had yet to sit down and watch it, and that was Dune Part 2. Now, to be fair, there's some things about this I just don't understand. Of course, die-hard fans loved it. Die-hard fans love this adaptation. And they also love the first part, but I'm not saying that this is a bad film. It's actually very well made, but some of the I guess the science fiction lore of it is kind of going over my head, and there's a ton of religious stuff in there. It's kind of weird. It's like a mixture of Islam and Roman Catholic, and it's really bizarre. So it may take some more viewing. So I'm not giving it a bad review. I'm just saying I didn't fully get it. But I understand there are diehard fans who do, and you enjoy it. Great. I mean, but it may have to gel a little bit for me. Okay. So, but the other two films I ended up watching, and these are classics. Well, one definitely is a classic I had never seen. I've heard so much about this movie, and I've heard it's a modern staple in cinema, a staple in the Western, and just a lot of things. And it's Stanley Kramer's production of High Noon with Gary Cooper and Grace Kelly. And as a Western, I think it's an interesting take on. I think it's an interesting way of how they did things. Definitely cinematic, and with the time, because time is essence in the film. It's and it's important. And matter of fact, the director of photography uses the pendulum of a clock, and the score by Dimitri Tompkin play upon that pendulum, as well as the song sung by Tex Ritter in the background constantly. But I'll tell you the truth. I think it's a good film. However, the film during its production was very controversial at the time, because the screenplay writer Carl Foreman was a member of the Communist Party. Matter of fact, was blacklisted while this film was either in production or being released. And it got a lot of controversy because of who the writer was. And when the film came out, matter of fact, the outcome of this movie is one of my favorite Westerns of all time. Rio Bravo was to come out of High Noon. And I'll tell you why. Again, Carl Foreman, member of the Communist Party. But that aside, John Wayne and director Howard Hawks both saw High Noon and hated it. John Wayne, obviously red-blooded, right-wing patriot, thought it was the most un-American thing he had ever seen in his life. And Howard Hawks thought the film was a bit unrealistic. I myself, I respect it for what it is. I think it tells a story, a good story. Yeah, I can see where it's a bit unrealistic, because Gary Cooper as the marshal, he is a bit much like a superhero. But because of that, Howard Hawks and John Wayne decided, they said, let's do a story in that vein, but show you how we think it would happen. And that ended up being Rio Bravo, which is another great Western in itself. And I enjoy Rio Bravo. I enjoyed High Noon, but I enjoy, if you're going to stick me in a room and I had my choice between Rio Bravo and High Noon, I'm going to go with Rio Bravo. I just think it's more entertaining, and I think to go along with Howard Hawks, I think it is a bit more believable because, yeah, John Wayne gets the girl in the end, but he's going to have people to back him up. It's not going to be one person against three. And not only that, in Rio Bravo, it's a full gang coming towards it, and not just 4 guys, not 4 on 1. In the other film I watched, now this was a product of the time, from 1978. It is the Hal Ashby film Coming Home with Jane Fonda, Jon Voight, and Bruce Dern. Very much a film of the 70s. It's a film that shows the depiction of what happened to our guys when they did come home from Vietnam. And it was just a few years, it was released just a few years after the Vietnam War had ended. But it shows what happened. You know, you're put into the mindset of, you know, Jane Fonda plays this nurse who's married to Bruce Dern. But Bruce Dern is off in the middle of the war still. Jon Voight is wounded. He's back home. He's a paraplegic and he's very belligerent. He doesn't want anybody around him. And matter of fact, him and Jane Fonda end up striking a relationship. There's other things like Jon Voight's character. He ends up trying to protest, you know, the war by locking a chain up in front of the Marine Corps Recruit Center, and strapping himself to it. It's tragic what happened to our guys when they came home. As a matter of fact, when Bruce Dern's character comes home after he's been wounded, it's kind of left out in the open for the audience to decide what happens to him. But it's definitely a film that it's left kind of open book, where nobody really has a happy ending. Everybody just kind of, it just kind of ends. It's yeah, so that's what I've been doing. Trust me, I had other plans to do other things. I was going to start another Disney puzzle, but then this happened. And trust me, I didn't plan on it. It's you know, sometimes medical procedures like this are God's way of saying, you know what, slow down. Just slow down. And so he and I'm not trying to badmouth anybody or badmouth anything, but you know, things were kind of getting hectic at work. I hate to know what it's going to be like when I return. Um, but it's yeah. I'm just going to leave it at that. Um, again, I didn't plan on this. I just, you know, it's sometimes we just, again, just need to take a step back and slow down a little bit. And, yeah. So, from me to you, see you later.